A senior policy advisor under the Obama administration has been arrested and charged with child predator crimes. Rahim Rami Shai, 46 years old, faced Luton Crown Court in the UK last Friday after being arrested on a slew of charges, including arranging the commission of a child sex offense and possessing indecent images of children, according to the Daily Mail and court case documents. Shai worked in a senior role at the U.S. Treasury Department from 2008 to 2014, advising individuals on countering the financing of terrorism and assisting foreign governments to impose sanctions on hostile regimes, as well as working as a senior advisor to the late U.S. diplomat Richard Holbrooke, who served under the last 3 Democrat presidents. The exact details of his charges have not been revealed, but I gotta tell you, this is not looking good for the Obamas and the Clintons, as if they didn't have enough on their plate already. This guy worked for the White House under Obama and Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, whose husband, mind you, flew to Epstein's island 26 times.
Then you want somebody who's going to get up every day.
Hey, Hillary, why'd your husband visit Epstein Island 26 times?
Let's also not forget the 13 visits that convicted rapist Harvey Weinstein made to the Obama White House. Remember the time that Michelle Obama called him an inspiration to women?
I want to start by thanking Harvey Weinstein for organizing this amazing day. Harvey. This is possible because of Harvey. He is a wonderful human being, a good friend, and just a powerhouse. And the fact that he and his team took the time to make this happen for all of you should say something not about me or about this place, but about you. All right, everybody, we are here because of you.
That one didn't age quite so well.
Why am I noticing a pattern here that it's almost always Democrat politicians and liberal celebrities that are caught up in, or at least supporting, individuals in the worst sex scandals? There are, of course, Republicans who have been accused of sex crimes as well. I'm going to get into that. But more recently, it is overwhelmingly the liberal Democrat side. This is a long list, so I'll just start with this one. The Democrat Senate staffer who was caught filming a sex tape in a Senate hearing room. How convenient that he didn't face any criminal charges for that. Was it perhaps blackmail, that he would be protected from criminal charges in exchange for something else? Tucker Carlson was on Joe Rogan recently and was talking about how the intelligence agencies blackmail politicians through their sex lives.
Members of Congress are terrified of the intel agencies. I'm not guessing at that. They've told me that, including people on the Intel Committee, including people who run the Intel Committee, the people whose job it is to oversee and keep in line these enormous, secretive agencies whose budgets we can't even know. They're black budgets. They're the parents. The agencies are the children. They're afraid of the agencies. That's not compatible with democracy. Democracy is a really simple system, even representative democracy like ours. The people rule. They do so through elections. They express their preference through voting. They send their people to the capital city to run the government on their behalf. Whenever you have unelected people who are not accountable to anyone making the biggest decisions, you don't have a democracy, you have something else. Another system, I would call it a tyranny or whatever you want to call it. It's not a democracy. So that's like super obvious. It's playing out in front of everyone and no one cares and no one does anything about it. And I think the reason is because they're threatened. And if you look at the committee chairmen who allow this shit to happen year after year, they're all, and I don't know, people say, oh, they're compromised or being blackmailed or whatever. I don't have evidence of that, but I know them. And they all have things to hide. I know that for a fact. And so it's not a stretch of imagination to imagine that, you know, some committee chairman who's allowing warrantless spying on Americans to continue or whatever abuse they're allowing, knowing fully or hiding the truth about UAPs, ignoring the UAP Disclosure Act of 2023. Like, why are they doing that? It's not impossible to imagine that some guy with a drinking problem or a weird sex life, and that's very common up there, that's why they're doing it. Because they don't want to be exposed. I don't have evidence of that. I don't have proof of that.
Right.
But that's not a crazy thing to assume that could be happening. And I said to somebody, a very powerful person, the other day in a conversation in my kitchen, an elected official, holds a really senior position, a very famous person. I was going crazy. I was so mad about all this stuff and about the warrantless spying and about the funding for these insane wars. And I said to the guy who serves in one of the legislative bodies, I got so mad my dogs were afraid. They're like, "Whoa, why are you yelling?" Because I don't yell at home. But I was like, all these people are controlled. They're all, got weird sex lives and all these things are hiding and they're being blackmailed by the intel agencies. And he said, and I'm quoting, "I know." It was like, okay, so at this point we're just sort of admitting that's real? Like, why do we allow that to continue?
I don't know.
Perhaps the most egregious one that really brought political sex scandals into public discourse was Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Back in 2020, Ricky Gervais' speech at the Golden Globes was probably the greatest revelation of who these people really are.
Talking of all you perverts, it was a big year. It was a big year for paedophile movies. Surviving R. Kelly, Leaving Neverland, Two Popes. Spoiler alert, season 2 is on the way, so in the end, he obviously didn't kill himself. Just like Jeffrey Epstein. Shut up. I know he's your friend, but I don't care.
As well as the jokes that comedian Jim Gaffigan cracked earlier this year.
I can't even believe I'm in the entertainment industry. I can't. It's so unlikely. I'm from a small town in Indiana. I'm not a pedophile.
Ashley Biden's diary, which was picked up by Project Veritas, goes into detail about the showers with her father. Let's also not forget about Creepy Joe's inappropriate behavior around kids.
I sit on the stand and it get hot. I got hairy legs, and the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight, and then watch the hair come back up again.
And now you have P. Diddy, who is the target of a sex trafficking investigation, endorsing Joe Biden.
White men like Trump need to be banished. That way of thinking is real dangerous. When you look at it, we don't have no choice. You know what I'm saying? You can say what you want about Biden. I can't say I love the pick either, but hey, we got to get him in office.
What a surprise. The list just goes on and on and on. And as Tucker is saying, I definitely suspect that these sex crimes are used for the purpose of blackmail. This is what I believe Jeffrey Epstein was used for. There were cameras all over the place on his private island. He was luring celebrities into compromising situations involving sexual activities with children. Now, I don't think that this was for Epstein's personal gain, but for the personal gain of powerful individuals controlling him. The ones that used him as a honeypot, who in turn would use this blackmail that they had on politicians and celebrities to keep them silent, to control and manipulate their careers. Now, as I said, it is mostly Democrats, but there are stories of Republicans involved in sex crimes as well. Pretty soon, I will be sitting down with Nick Bryant, the author of the book, The Franklin Scandal. The Franklin Scandal was a series of allegations surrounding a high-level pedophile ring that occurred in the late 80s and early 90s in Omaha, Nebraska. The accused ringleader was a prominent Omaha businessman, Lawrence King Jr., who was also a rising star in the Republican Party. King was the manager of the Franklin Community Federal Credit Union, hence the name, which was later revealed to have been involved in financial corruption and fraud. Victims came forward and reported that King had been trafficking victims from the foster care system, including the most notable organization, Boys Town, into Washington, D.C. for sex parties. And they had witnessed powerful individuals from the Bush Sr. and Reagan administration abusing children. However, despite extensive media coverage and multiple investigations, including a grand jury inquiry, no high-level officials were ever prosecuted for their alleged involvement in the abuse.
A lot of people paying a lot of money to keep things quiet.
Even one of the victims, Alicia Owen, was thrown in jail for perjury after her accusations against King were deemed false. This was a major sex trafficking scandal, which was kind of memory hold after the Epstein stuff really took over, but it's very much on the same level of the Epstein crimes in the way that it involves DC politicians and the cover-up by the intelligence agencies, by the FBI, which you'll read about in the book. While Epstein involved more Democrat politicians, the Franklin scandal was largely Republican. It shows that just because you're a conservative, that doesn't mean that you aren't prone to the same corruption and predatory behavior that Democrats are. Isn't it interesting that no president, Republican nor Democrat, cracked down on child sex trafficking the way that Donald Trump did? Jeffrey Epstein was arrested under the Trump administration.
White men like Trump need to be banished.
This was because even though Trump ran as a Republican, he was an outsider in 2016. He was not a career politician. So when you talk about being anti-establishment, he meant it. I look forward to my interview with Nick Bryant, who spent 7 years researching this and interviewing victims about what happened. According to his book, Mr. Bryant had his life threatened, his car searched, and his actions monitored simply for investigating this. So stay tuned for that discussion. I'm not throwing out any definitive accusations, and we certainly don't know enough yet, but how was this former senior advisor to Obama compromised? Was he blackmailed? Was his life threatened? Hopefully, we'll know more about what really happened. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to Inverted World, and I will see you on the next one.
We want to thank today's sponsor, Dr. Stella Emanuel. If you remember her from 2020 amid the pandemic, she went viral when she went on with America's frontline doctors, accurately purporting that social distancing and masking was nonsense, and shared her firsthand experience successfully treating patients with hydroxychloroquine. And what did they do? Smear her, of course. Well, she was right. Using the code FIGHTERS, you'll get 5% off any of her detox kits, COVID care, and more. Go to drstellamd.com for a list of all of her products, and don't forget to use the code FIGHTERS for a discount.